All right. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'll actually go ahead and turn my camera off too, so you guys can focus on the slide, and hopefully everyone is still seeing that intro slide.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. As mentioned, my name is Josh Lee. I'm a marketing specialist for nature tourism with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And as part of my role, I'm the manager for the Great Texas Wildlife Trails. So today I just want to introduce you all to this project is fairly new. We started it in 2020 for the wildlife trails called Adopt a Loop. And we based this project on a similar one with that was started in 2016 by the Virginia Birding and Wildlife Trails and their Department of Wildlife Resources. So first, I'd like to just give you some quick background on the Great Texas Wildlife Trails for any of you guys that may not be familiar with the trails. 2021 was actually the 25th anniversary of the first ever coastal birding trail, which was completed in 1996. That was the first trail of its kind anywhere in the US. And a few years later, the rest of the Great Texas Coastal Birding Trails were completed in 2000. Since that time, other trails across the state have been added over the years, with the Far West Texas trails being the most recent addition in 2010. We do have printed versions of the maps that some of you may be familiar with. We did a reprint of those 3 coastal maps last year for a special 25th anniversary set. So the trail system is actually comprised of 9 trails in 5 regions across the state. So you can see the map of Texas here shows the 9 different trail systems. And at the bottom, you see the unique signage that we install. They're roadside signs that we have a partnership with TxDOT, and they install the signs near the trail entrances for us. Currently, we have over 900 individual viewing sites along the trails statewide. The sites are organized into 124 different trail, what we call loops, which are clusters of wildlife viewing sites that are suggested as a trip itinerary. These were originally designed to be explored over 2 to 3 days or so, driving site to site over a period of time. We have all different types of sites, including nature trails, highway pullouts, nature centers, scenic overlooks, some private ranches, obviously state parks, local and federal parks. There's even been bed and breakfasts on the site, and all different types. So as I mentioned, the sites are marked along a nearby roadway with those appropriate region signs there. We also have interactive maps available on our website. And as I mentioned, printed trail maps available for sale for each of the 9 regions. So getting into what is the Adopt a Loop project, we're inviting you all, the Master Naturalists chapters across the entire state, to adopt those loops of the wildlife trails that fall within or near your local chapter boundaries. There's several ways for volunteers to assist with this project. And as with most things, a lot of this can be done remotely via phone or computer, especially in the initial phases. One thing that we ask is annual verification that the contact and site information listed in our contact database and on the website is correct and updated, conducting of internet, email, and or phone research, and ensuring that TPWD is providing the best quality information that we can for public wildlife viewing and nature tourism opportunities. This also, our hope is that it strengthens our community partner role in outdoor recreation and ultimately wildlife conservation. So another part of the project is the local site visits. These are in-person visits to each of the site on your adopted loops. And we ask a few things of those site visits, making sure that those roadside signs are still posted and are in decent visible condition. A lot of those signs are 15, 20 years old. So you can imagine what they look like after Texas weather beating on them for that long. Viewing the sites in person will also make sure that the site is still usable and viable for the Great Texas Wildlife Trails. Over the past year, since the Master Naturalists have started with this project, we've added quite a few sites and taken off about the same amount, just because sites become obsolete or construction takes over things. And so that's one big area where you all have been a big help in identifying the viability of existing sites and adding really good new sites. And then, of course, report and record any other observations that you make while you're on your site visit. Another huge element to this project is the community science aspect. So on these seasonal surveys, we ask that you upload observations to iNaturalist and also do an eBird checklist to observe wildlife at your sites. And this helps us at TPWD better understand the distribution of the wildlife that we have along the trails. And we have a specific Adopt a Loop iNaturalist project where participants can submit their observations. And that'll help us in making trail updates, as well as to inform visitors on what specific species they can look for when they're at a particular site. So if there's been a unique sighting that you guys observed or that you heard about, we can kind of feature that on promotion of the trail sites. So the key to this is chapters, which is great that you guys asked me to meet the entire chapter. The chapters need to agree to make a commitment to adopting a loop or loops, which Peter and some others have already started. So you guys are past that step. This person we do have a project coordinator, which Peter is that role. So this person will be the main point of contact for me and TPWD, and then kind of help with the additional volunteers who are participating in selecting sites along the chapter's adopted loop. So the ultimate goal is that all of these activities are going to help increase public awareness, appreciation, and conservation of the wildlife and native habitats here in Texas, and allow us at TPWD to create kind of a cohesive marketing tool to market not only nature tourism in Texas, but also these partner sites that we have across the state. So obviously, like I mentioned, with 124 loops and 900 sites across the state, there's a lot of opportunity for volunteers to contribute. Our plan, and it's been working out fairly well, is that site visits be conducted 4 times per year, kind of on a seasonal basis. So wildlife observations can be made at those different times throughout the year. There is some flexibility on this, just really depending on the number of loops and or sites adopted. Size of sites comes into play as well. And if chapters are adopting multiple loops, they can kind of visit those on a rotational basis. And I can provide you all more information with that. I don't think your chapter probably falls into that category. And as far as volunteer time commitment, like I said, that also depends on the number of loops or sites, and the length of time at a site visit will vary greatly just depending on how large the site is. And if it's an individual or multiple people visiting the site. So some of the smaller sites might only take 20, 30 minutes to visit and observe things, while larger sites like state parks and places that have miles and miles of hiking trails might take several hours. So that'll actually kind of be up to the discretion of the chapter coordinators that are elected. So, and our goal for this project, and it started a lot quicker than I thought it would. Like I said, we launched this in October of 2020 at the Master Naturalists annual meeting, and already have 25 or so active chapters in the project, which is great. And our goal is to continue with this project and continue expanding with more Master Naturalist chapters for the years to come. So Peter has access to these. We also, as I mentioned, have a Google Drive, but we provide everybody, in addition to the printed maps and the interactive maps that are on our website, we had our GS lab come up with these specific chapter maps showing all the sites within each chapter's boundaries. So here, for example, is a list of all the sites within the Lower Trinity Basin chapter. And as you can see, there's 2 loops, which would be the Trinity and Anahuac loop. And I think it's 15 sites here. So these are just another tool for you all. And it also shows, sites in neighboring chapter boundaries as well, because there is some overlap, and most of these loops are going to cross multiple chapter boundaries. So that just helps with the coordination for each chapter. And then this is another map we provide that is just a site list. And so this is the Balcones loop. And as you can see, this loop actually runs through 4 chapters. So there again, I mentioned that many of the loops do extend through multiple chapters. And I have a contact list for all the chapter coordinators that we can share, and that'll allow the chapter coordinators to communicate with neighboring chapters just to ensure that the same sites aren't being inadvertently visited and reviewed by multiple chapters, because that just creates extra work that doesn't need to happen for you all. So we provide the volunteers with most of the materials that you would need for a site visit. We have an Adopt a Loop site visit checklist that's currently a printable PDF. I'm working to get things digitized to make everyone's lives easier. We also have a printed window car sign for your vehicle that states that you're on official TPWD and TMN business. And this is just a tool for parking fees or entry fees, things like that. Obviously, with the private sites and places that do have a parking fee, you would need to contact that site owner or manager first, just to arrange and ensure that you do get free entry. So we also recommend printing a copy of your site's information from our website, so you can verify that with the site manager when you meet or speak with them. And then some additional things for a site visit would be, digital camera or smartphone for the iNaturalist photos, binoculars, field guides, notepads, etc. Things that most of you probably take with you on your field visits anyway. So volunteers can join the iNaturalist project once they have an active profile. I'm guessing a lot of you already have that, as well as an eBird profile. We also do have some instructions on submitting observations to the project in iNaturalist. We have some recordings for iNaturalist training and eBird training for anyone that's newer to it or just needs a brush up on things. So really on our end, the biggest benefit for volunteers is that you guys can earn volunteer hours visiting some of the best wildlife viewing sites in the state. And like I mentioned before, the project will help us get more people involved in community science and wildlife conservation. Our goal is to make wildlife viewing more accessible to everyone in Texas. And we really think having that accurate, up-to-date information for all the trail sites that you all provide can really boost our efforts to share this information accurately with the public. So your observations, as I mentioned as well, will help us track wildlife across the state, and most importantly, the species of greatest conservation need that we have here in Texas. So here is my contact information. Feel free, if anyone has questions after this or down the road, feel free to email me directly with anything that you need. As I mentioned, Peter can also be kind of a go-to between us. So with that, if there are any questions that folks have, I can stop sharing the screen here. See if I can be a real person again. There I am.
If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and enter them into the chat. Josh, I wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly. The site managers for these Adopt a Loop programs, are they volunteers or are they Parks and Wildlife staff?
It depends on the type of site. So like at a state park, it would be either a park interpreter or someone that works there. Privately owned sites may have an actual site manager. It may be the owner of the site themselves. So it really just depends on the type of site. And that's one of the areas that the Master Naturalists have been a big help in, is identifying those proper contacts and helping us update our list, because we have a spreadsheet of contacts, but before I started this project, it had been updated since I think 2008. So me being the one man show kind of for 900 plus sites, it's virtually impossible for me to contact them all, let alone visit them. So there may be a little detective work involved on your end to get that accurate information.
Right. And Peter, you were saying that our chapter is already associated with some of these loops, or that's
yes,
in process?
Yes, and I'll cover that in my segment. Okay. Yeah, good question. Yeah, so we're part of the there's several loops that we have in Bexar County, which is like the Alamo Loop. Yeah, the Alamo Loop, the Mission Loop, and the Cibolo Loop are.
Okay. Somebody did ask if there's an Alamo Area POC. Does POC mean?
Point of contact?
So that would be you, right, Peter?
Correct.
Okay. Josh, you said that this information is available to all Master Naturalists on the Google Drive, correct?
Yeah.
The chapter coordinator, so Peter has access to it and he can feel free to disseminate any of that information. I
Right.
didn't want to have too many people accessing the site,
Okay.
so it's just the chapter coordinators, but everything in there is free to be shared.
Right. And what I'm basically doing is bringing it over to our chapter Google site.
Right.
So
Okay.
Yeah, so we have those training videos I mentioned, and then those the map books with those PDF files I showed. So all car sign, just kind of general. There's a FAQ document.
Right. Now, one thing what I will bring over to the chapter is that information, and then be more specific on what pertains to our chapter, our loops, our sites that are in our boundaries. Now, if there's other sites that are non-chapter, I might mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua, say south of San Antonio that are not in a chapter and you have some access to it, you're welcome to go after it, with no problem if it's within our loop.
Correct. Yeah, because there are neighboring chapters to y'all that have not joined the project. So I think there's I'm trying to look at the map here, the New Braunfels area. There's a few sites there that no one has, up near Kendall. So yeah, kind of surrounding the Bexar County area.
Now, Joshua, is the Hill Country part of this already? Have they joined? 'Cause I know we kind of overlap.
Kind of. Yeah, Lisa Marler, who you probably remember from a lot of the calls. I want to say they are joining the Hill County chapter.
Okay.
Because they just moved.
So that's a good point. So like in Kendall County is actually the Hill Country, according to the Texas Master Naturalists. But some of us that are on the call live in Kendall County. I think quickly looking, Keeley and I think Ken might be in there. There may be some sites real close by that they want to adopt and do. So we would have to coordinate with the Hill Country to see, okay, we're more in Kerrville area. So yeah, take it on.
Right.
So that's the kind of coordination we have to do.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm totally fine with that. And a lot of these loops are shared by multiple chapters. So just keeping up that communication. Right. Yeah, the Hill County chapter did not officially join. So I know Lisa's still trying to get settled into their new spot, but I think you have her information. So I'll verify that with her and see kind of where they are, because they were transitioning some of the stuff to a page that they had been doing out in the Balcones Canyonland area. So.
Okay. One other question that comes up a lot, and okay, so we have our sites that we're going to monitor, and that's really contacting the site manager, like Josh said, and there's doing a site visit and seeing what's new, what's not, and then there's a form that we're actually going to fill out that site or that Master Naturalist will fill out. Now there's the other part, the citizen science part. Now, correct me wrong, Josh. Pretty much when it comes to citizen science stuff, if you're traveling throughout Texas and it's one of these sites, like I've been to El Paso. I think I was the first one to record the furthest west point or west site, which was in El Paso, Heritage Park, I believe it's called. It's the furthest west in Texas. I did some iNaturalist stuff there, but I did not contact the site coordinator because it's out of my chapter. So, but you're free to do iNaturalist observations or eBird observations in other areas. So I just want to make sure that's still a go, right?
Yeah, that's correct. There has been some, and this may be based on chapter, there has been some questions about whether you can log volunteer hours for that with your chapter if you're that far out of your geographic area. But yes, feel free to make observations in iNaturalist and eBird from any site in the state. Like our biologists always say, the more data, the better. So everything that we have in there, we'll take it.
And from a chapter point of view in iNaturalist, if it's a Texas Parks and Wildlife project, those are pretty much approved as a project. Now, travel is another consideration that may not be approved. You know, I'm on vacation, but so I did not charge travel. I just charge, if I were to charge that, it would be what I did with iNaturalist and what is per our iNaturalist standards that's posted in our website. And likewise with eBird. Okay.
Josh, you might have shown it briefly during your presentation, but what would be the best way for people to access a map of all the loops online?
That would be the website, and I can pop that into the chat for y'all.
Okay, that'd be great.
And those are obviously, the website's going to be the most up to date as well, just because we only print the maps every few years and we kind of print them in rotation. So like I mentioned, the 3 coastal maps were reprinted in 2021. Right. I think the next ones in the queue are either the Heart of Texas East and West or Prairies and Piney Woods. I don't think they've been printed since 2016, but that also depends on if and when we get funding to print them. So the website is going to be the best bet for up-to-date info.
Okay.
So the HOT, we're in the Heart of Texas East. If I remember right, that's coming up in 2024. I think
that's what we're shooting for.
Okay. So one of our objective as from a chapter is when they do go to print is to have everything updated for that map as much as possible, you know, by then. And so we do have some grace period.
Right.
Go ahead.
And we'll do a big push when we get close to printing. Like I reached out to all the chapters that were already involved in the project for the coastal map preprints and just kind of urged them to get the up-to-date information in. And especially with things in that area, driving directions was a big thing that we were updating, because the way the directions are originally written is driving in an actual loop. So there's a starting site and you drive site to site to complete the loop. And we realized that that's not really the best way to do that, because not everyone that visits the sites is going to visit every single site in a loop. So what we're asking now is that directions are provided from the closest major roadway. So whether it's a highway intersection or an exit number or something like that. So,
right.
But like I mentioned, when we do get closer to printing maps, you know, we'll reach out and give you guys a projected date and timeline to try to get everything as accurate as we can. And we know that with printed product, as soon as it goes to press, it's out of date, but we try to get it as close as we can.
Sure.
Yeah, and so this year, 2022, I'd like to see it as a dry run, as us get comfortable with this project and have coordinators that say, hey, I'll take that, because I do partnership at this park already. I know even in the board meeting, you know, we were talking about Woodlawn Lake and we're talking about Mitchell Lake. Those are all on the loop. So those are great. And you may say, hey, it doesn't take much more to do these. Or if you're doing iNaturalist stuff, you could add that as another project that you're, you know, to that observation.
Peter, is this going to be an official chapter project for us?
Yes, it was an official project last year.
Okay.
So by the board, again, it's a Texas Parks and Wildlife project. So it falls into that category that it is an approved project.
It's already.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if Pam or Nancy is on the call. And then I did see that to go on the newsletter. Yes, it was on the newsletter last year around February, March. I don't remember which month. I think it might have been March, or it might have went all the way to April, somewhere in April, where we started. I did request I did do announcement, but I will do another one for February.
Okay, great.
Okay.
People are curious about the maps that you just mentioned and wondering if they can search for the loops on Google Maps or MapQuest. I'm guessing probably not.
Yeah, let me
yeah, go ahead.
can I share now? Okay,
Yes.
let me go ahead and share screen. I do want to share number 2. Yeah, can y'all see that?
Yes.
I needed to go back to the chat. It is, let me go back. Yeah, so this is the actual map. Let me just go to presentation mode here.
Okay.
Oops, too far. This is a blend of another presentation, sorry. So it basically, this is gonna, the two parts that you could break this down into is a public outreach and a field research. And the public outreach is, which I'm gonna call folks that are site coordinators. And they say, hey, I'm gonna be the site coordinator. I'm gonna talk to the site manager. And I'm gonna fill out, there's a 2-page form that we turn into Josh. Now, Josh, are you gonna do that electronically or just on the PDF?
Right now, it's still the PDF.
Okay.
I'm working towards getting involved in that SitSci website that I had mentioned on our coordinator call, just to
Kind of
make
like
everyone's lives easier, so we're not having to do data input and things on our end. But
Right.
we're still in the works on that, and that's another thing I'm working with the folks in Virginia, because they've gotten
Right,
a
I
head
was gonna
start
say.
on the SitSci as well.
Right. We actually had a meeting with Josh's counterparts in Virginia some time ago. What, September timeframe
it
around
was
there?
early fall, late
Yeah,
summer.
early fall. And they had a great input to it. So there is some public outreach that I'm looking for site coordinators, and also, everybody could be a field research. And one thing I will say, this project for field research, which is going to be Adopt a Loop and in iNaturalist and eBird, Master Naturalists are the only ones that could input into it. You can't have, if you have let's say you're a native plant society, I'm going to pick on them because I'm in there, and you're not a member of the Master Naturalists, they cannot be part of the project. So this is really something that Texas Parks and Wild looks up to us, because we've been trained and a little bit more detailed to observations than the public is in normal circumstances. So those are it. So I will say, those that have become a site coordinator, I will give them one of the maps that are out there published. Now, Josh didn't mention this, but we get, as Master Naturalists, we get them at 50 cents per copy, where the public gets it like $5. So I do have these for site coordinators. So, but we'll talk later on that, and hopefully in February we'll have a meeting on that. But here's the loops. Let me just drill down a little bit more. This is the map that we're talking about, that is going to be updated. I will say that there's some sites that I would love to see in San Antonio be added to it by 2024, like Hardburger Park, some of the greenways that are coming into play. But there's a form that Josh will have us do, and we'll kind of, as a chapter, agree on this. Just take Hardburger. I mean, with the land bridge and all the things that have been done there, I think it's a perfect addition to this map, and it really gives great. It's like a Central Park to me, like it is to New York. So, and it's not on here. So those are things that we need to update as a chapter or get.
And Peter, if y'all have sites that are ready and can be added now, we can add them to the website.
Okay.
And just have them accessible there before we even do the map reprint.
Okay, and that's exactly what I want to do for 2022 is add new sites and maybe talk about sites that may not be productive as
Right.
Yeah. So we are the we are in the HOT region. We kind of focus all of the sites in Bexar County is what we're looking at. Now I do have a Google Maps, and I did go ahead and download a Google Maps or I created a Google Maps. Sorry, a Google Maps of all our sites. So we do have in San Antonio, San Antonio, we have the Cibolo Loop and all these dots. And I will post, let me see if I could post this. Well, when I get out of here, I guess I'll post it. I guess I cannot. But this is a Google Maps. I will post that somewhere. But here's my email address. Although today's board meeting, you could also send it to the vice president. My email address is AAM vice president @gmail.com. But either one will get there to me. But we're basically, from a physical outreach point of view, we're talking to site manager, doing a walkthrough, looking at, is there new bathrooms? Is there new bird sites? Is there the road sign is there? And I'm hoping to have one of these blue dots that somebody just takes responsibility as far as doing the public outreach. And Josh, as far as, I know you could do it by phone. You said some of this you could do by phone and by computer. But as far as the site, depending on the size, this is where I think as a chapter, we may say, hey, we're going to go to Government Canyon and we're going to do a walkthrough, a physical walkthrough as a chapter, and just spread out and just see what we see if anything's different. I know Government Canyon has probably added some areas compared to what's on the website today. Take the junior master naturalist. I think during the board meeting we had San Pedro Springs on there. I know they're doing a lot of construction there, and that probably needs to be reported. What's reported? They took away the pool, or the pool gate, so they really have changed. So those are things that we could go and just visit as together and take care of it. But the site coordinator would just or the site person from Master Naturalist will just write up the 2-page documentation answering questions that Josh has, and I'll provide that to those site coordinators. But as a group, we could physically walk that. Okay. Again, this is what I do like it on the on Google Maps, because you could actually, if you're not familiar with let's say going to Government Canyon, I live on the other side of the county, and I wasn't too familiar with it the first time I went, and all I did was clicked on directions, and it got me directions, and I was able to do it on my CarPlay on my car, and it gave me directions while I was driving. So that's why I like this this method. But we're trying to update the Texas Parks and Wildlife website and what's descriptions are there. So this is just an added bonus for our chapter. And these are the current sites that we do have, like Walker's Ranch, McAllister, going down the list. These are all in one loop. It is called the Alamo Area Loop. That's one of the loops. The Mission Loop, you got Southside Lions Park, Calaveras, Now, these are all private, these two, Calaveras and Brawny. So somebody would have to reach out to that site manager there. Most of these, if you look, most of these, and let me just close this real quick. Oops. Well, before I close it, let me go back. Before I close it, most of these are managed by the City of San Antonio Parks and Rec. So I have reached out to Parks and Rec, and they are willing to meet with us. So those site coordinators we'll just all meet together and take care of, what we would do on the phone, probably do a Zoom call there. And that's basically it, I believe. One thing I do want to share is this is basically what I have as of last year. I do have a spreadsheet, and this is what I was talking on the Google Drive. You can see my spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the pretty much what Josh was showing on one of his slides. Here's the Alamo loop, and here's the site number that Josh has mentioned, and you'll see that on the website, Texas Parks and Wildlife website, the name, the county, and the chapter it belongs to. So all these, naturally, these are all in Bexar County. They belong to the Alamo chapter. But if we go to the, let's say the Cibolo loop, there's where it starts crossing boundaries. Like Josh was saying, we got the Cibolo loop. We got the Cibolo loop. First one, like Cibolo Nature Center. It's been redefined, right? Somebody help me on that one, but we would have to update that if that's so. But it belongs to the Hill Country, so we would have to coordinate with the Hill Country. It is in Kendall County, so these Kendall counties may be somewhat. We'd have to talk to, I guess, Lisa when she's available. Say, hey, do you want to handle these, or do you want us to handle them? Because I know we do a lot of volunteer work, especially at Cibolo Nature Center. We have this is a private, the second line 5. So we would have to coordinate with the site manager. So not everyone is a park that's owned by a government institute. Or the state or the city or the county or the river authority. So this is, so everybody getting the gist. And a lot of these do not, we got to go research the site person. So what I have started filling out is people from last year who have said, okay, I'll take ownership of a site, be a site coordinator. And that's basically touch bases and fill out that form. And then everybody could be a site observer. And if you want to be a site observer, that's great. I'll put you down here. And I'll tell you, if you're a site observer and you have 200 observations, I will give you one of these maps also. And if you're in class 46, I know y'all got these already. I do have other ones that if y'all want from other regions, I will be glad to give you those also. So that's when you get 200. So a special offer for this meeting, I sound like a commercial now, for site coordinators, we'll, here's all the vacancies. If you see a park that you may be already doing observations or volunteer work, it'll behoove you just to say, hey, I could be a coordinator there. I don't think being a coordinator is going to take a tremendous amount of time, me personally, but we'll see. And if you look at the Cibolo Loop, and I'm really focused on the Alamo area, I have a lot of vacancies, and I do have one at Cibolo Creek Ranch. I don't know if Camelia is on, but she's site coordinator there, and I believe so. So we have a lot of vacancies that I'd love to fill. You could just email me.
And Peter, if we want to see the vacancies that need to be filled and maybe see them on a map, is that something we access through Texas Parks and Wildlife's website?
No, that would be under my stuff.
Okay.
As a chapter. So this is where a chapter coordinating is gonna happen.
Okay.
So let me just go back a little. I need to go back to. I can't see the chat because I'm sharing. Yeah, I'll see as soon as I get out of sharing. I'll put that on the chat, and y'all could see that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and Josh, there's a couple of them in here. Medina is, I believe, is no longer part of the Hill Country, and it's kind of open. So I need to just update you. So the Medina area is really open. I do know that Castroville Regional Park, we do have a Master Naturalist in Alamo area. That's very, I forget who it is. Oh, if she's on here, she could raise her hand. And I'd love to, I haven't reached out to her, but I know she'd be a great person to be a coordinator there, if anybody else wants to. And also, I know Lisa had a question. I know she's taken on the Alamo Basin Park area. And Lisa, if you're still on, go ahead and go open mic if you still had a question on that. I don't know if we've answered it by now.
Why, thank you. Am I part of this one night only special offer for opportunities to work for free? Joshua, yeah, I had a question because I have a long volunteer relationship with the place that I have volunteered to do, but it's also a city park. And I am just a little confused at this point because I feel like we're ignoring, or at least we're not acknowledging all the work that the city has done on the linear creekways and how that winds through the city of San Antonio and adjacent areas. So, I mean, and that has opened up areas to exploration. The question that I put in the chat earlier is that when they put together all of those linear creekways, they had no intention of doing nature programming. And this feels to me like an opportunity for us to bring content into the entire program. But and then the last thing that I put into the chat was that, but I feel like I need a letter of introduction from you, or that you can give us to explain why teaming up with TPWD on this thing would really be a value added for our city's linear creekway. This is a little bit beyond the question that I asked Peter earlier, but our town has done a lot of work to open up natural areas and things like that since TPW set up this first these loops, and I'm just trying to milk every advantage that we can out of getting this effort, because the city has done a lot of building, but they haven't done a lot of programming. And that's what I'm that's what I see this as. We're building programming for locations that are there already. Okay, I'll turn off my mic.
We do have a brief introduction instructions that are in the initial site visit checklist, but I'd be happy to type up something on a little more formal that you guys could distribute as kind of an introduction about the wildlife trails and the Adopt a Loop project and things like that you can provide to those site managers.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Lisa, also a lot of these creekways, as you mentioned, as they expand, or greenways, are basically owned by the city, and they're mapping them out and the way I see it right now is that they would become new sections. Now, Medina River Greenway, pretty much, I would say about 90% of that greenway is covered already through Medina Natural Area, which is a good segment. And then there's the Apple White, which I would like to expand to include like the Land Heritage Institute, because it goes through there. And also you have Mitchell Lake, and it goes through the backside of Mitchell Lake. So it pretty much covers it. So the same thing needs to really be done with probably either like that, or just have like the Cibolo Creekway be one, and then the what's the other one? Cibolo, and then there's Salado Creekways, wherever those, and then those, in my opinion, right now, and we could discuss it as a chapter, that they be one, each of those be one creekway.
Okay, Peter.
One project.
So I agree with you that we need to discuss this as a chapter. What I'm asking of Joshua is something a little bit different, which is just that, and those ones that you named in your remarks are perfect examples of entities that have developed since the origins of the Great Texas Wildlife Trails. And yet each of those places that you mentioned are there precisely because our city or a group of people in the city decided to do the bootstrap effort to create a nature preserve out of what was either abandoned reservoir or some other land. So I know from experience that there are groups of communities that are near these parks that and near these linear creekways that might enjoy bicycling through it and all that stuff. But I also know that the city itself has never hasn't recently, I'm at least 2 years out of date, put together nature programming for those locations. So if we're going to be talking to the parks managers and the linear creekways managers, and almost being the example that I know the best, now seems like a really good time to tell them how this could begin. That's the only thing I want to say, not completely cover, but begin the idea of programming our outdoors with education in ways that go beyond the boundaries of, say, the botanical garden and the zoo and the designated nature areas in town. That's all I wanted to say. So Joshua, if you could just kindly think about how you would present this to our city park executives, that would be spectacular.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be a great way to kind of unify everything as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a great point, Lisa. Also, for February, I'd like to come back and have a chapter meeting on that offline, those that are interested. And like I said, most of these are city. I have reached out to the city, and lucky for us, one of the key contacts now is Nicole McLeod. Y'all know her. I think she moved to another position, and it was discussed to get with her. So Lisa, to answer your question, and Josh, if you have that, would like to present that, hopefully by February, if that gives you enough time, or if you have something.
Sure.
So I put the Google Maps that was created, and also I will also put the spreadsheet for the chapter out there give me a minute.
Okay.
And hopefully that answers everybody.
Josh, we have a participant wondering the parameters of the iNat observations. Is it wildlife only or plants as well?
Everything. Native wildlife, plants, trees, insects, all that stuff.
All of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And in the February, we'll discuss, there is some, I know Joshua and some of the chapter Texas chapter meetings on this. A lot of people had a lot of issues with that project. There is, when you do put your observation to that project, definitely first join the project. That's number one. Join Great Texas Wildlife Trail, adopt a loop in iNaturalist is one. And if you make your observations, you have to tag your observations to that project each time. And also, if you saw the HOT number, like HOT 089, that also has to be part of the observation. What do you call that field? Observation site number has to be on that observation that you make. And a lot of times people fail to put that observation site number, and it doesn't get connected to the project. So, but hopefully next time when we meet in February, if you still have that issue, I'd like to address that as a chapter. Okay.
And we do have some instructions on that in that
Yes.
Google Drive as well that we can share.
Yes.
And I just dropped the iNaturalist project link in the chat as well.
Great.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
We have a participant wondering, is there a way to record invasives if found at a site?
There is an invasive project going on in Texas. Yeah, to answer yes. I don't know if Josh, if in the back end y'all are taking that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for this project, if you do observe an invasive, definitely make note of that in your site visit information, because I'm sure that's something that our biologists are tracking as well. It's not the focus of this project, but it's still relevant information that they would like to have, I'm sure.
Sure.
Right. And the neat thing about iNaturalist is you could, and what I see a lot from Master Naturalists is they only get hooked on one project, connecting an observation to one project, but you could do multiple projects. You could do this project, adopt a loop, and you could also do, let's say it was an invasive, and there's a project for that. So it'll go to those people that are most interested in that. Or if you see a mammal, I know there's Texas Parks and Wildlife is tracking mammals also, you could do it to multiple. So don't get
like our Tanya Humayon, who's our iNaturalist guru, that she runs the Herps of Texas project, which focuses on herps in Texas, but also that would be relevant for the wildlife trails as well. Right. So,
right. Peter, do you mind going ahead and sending your email address out to everyone? I think everyone would really just love to be able to have that right now. Look at it.
Okay, this is and I know I'm not. I'll put in the other one, and on our website, according to Haley, and you could also send it there as VP. I have an email, so if you say, what was it on that chat, you could also go there, and I'll pick it up there too.
Okay.
I just don't have it right. I have it handy right off the top.
Sure. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions?
And again, next month, and we'll try to meet on this and get a little bit more granular on it, and make it a kind of a chapter project that we go do something together. And it's going to be open to all. Maybe Catherine, you're on here. When you do your junior master naturalist, it may be your people that are there helping you. There'll be another encouragement to bring other folks, master naturalists, to come and help, and then later do observations or so forth. So those are my thoughts. So this project is going to be more of a overlay to what we're already doing in most cases.
So after next month's meeting, what would be the best way for our members to stay on top of this project and learn about where they could become a site coordinator or a site observer?
Email me, and then I'm going to try to have either monthly meetings or quarterly meetings to stay on top of this. So look in the newsletter for sure. I'm gonna post for February
Okay.
See when we could regroup on this.
Okay.
And I just noticed I was sending everything to Wendy. Did everybody get my links or on my chat?
I saw in the chat your just your vice president email address.
Sorry. For some reason, sorry, Wendy. I was sending everything to Wendy. Let me. I don't know how that happened.
Came from Haley, so.
Yeah, Peter,
Okay.
Haley already shared your address, so you're good there.
No, I was sending the Google Maps. I thought for some reason, it flipped to Wendy. Sorry, Wendy.
Yes, I got everything.
Okay. My apologies. Copy to everybody. There's the map. Sorry.
There it is.
And then the spreadsheet I'll send it. So that's the map I was talking about. A little bit more granular for our chapter.
Okay.
And the spreadsheet is coming. Also sent to Wendy. Sorry, Wendy. Copy. Everyone. I was wondering why nobody was responding. Okay, sorry. I don't know how I got that down. That pull down just got flipped from everyone to Wendy. Again, so the Google Maps, if you pull it up, you could see the sites already. And it's basically what I took was everything, the data that was posted on the website is posted here. There are some discrepancies, like I think Apple White and Medina are flipped in geographic locations on there, but that's the way the website is, so that needs to be corrected. And then on the spreadsheet, you'll see what's vacant, what's not. Just send me an email. Oh, hey, I want, I think Mark, I think I saw that you live across the street from one of the parks. That's awesome. Hey, if you're there every day walking it, might as well do observations and post it to the project. And you can still post it to other projects also. So that's the idea.
Okay. I'm gonna leave those up for a minute. I've gotten some requests, not to go off topic, but to point out at the top of our chat, there's some information for everybody from Wendy about aquatic wild and finding a fifth Master Naturalist for that project. And there's also, let's see, a talk at 9 a.m. on January 22nd on phenology. I've also been asked to point out those two messages are at the top of our chat, just so everybody gets a chance to see those.
And yes, that's why Peter was getting everything to me, because we have an aquatic wild workshop, but in order for people from our chapter to attend, we've got to have one more person. I've heard from one possibility. And I will get the information, but I will tell you, we have not had this offered in San Antonio. I've been trying to sign up for it for years. And it's just, it's a great workshop, especially for those of you that also are Texas water specialists. And so, you know, get in touch with me. I think I put my email in the chat. I'll put it again. I can answer questions about it, but it is February 9th and 23rd, 6 to 8 online. And then in between, you will have 2 fieldwork assignments you can do at any time in between, any place in San Antonio. And they're lots of fun. We did this workshop in the fall for a bunch of Master Naturalists, but there weren't enough from our group for people from our group to be able to attend. So I need one more person, and then Kiki can sign up people. And there's 4 others that really want to do it. So I'm hoping somebody will be able to do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wendy. We are being asked if this would be advanced training.
The workshop? Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for people that might be interested in eventually becoming a Project Wild facilitator and have done Growing Up Wild and Project Wild, that would also be part of their training. Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thank you guys for all of that information and for sending that information out through the chat. I want to leave that up for a while so everybody gets a chance to find that if they want to. Does anybody have any more questions for Josh or Peter?
I guess no. I guess we answered all their questions.
Right, I guess
Thank you,
so.
Josh.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Thank you so much, Josh. I know that we need to let you go, but we really appreciate you doing this tonight and introducing us all to this project and keeping us abreast of it as well, Peter. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you.
Guys, have a good night.
You too.